My name is Betty Spear. I grew up in Charleston, West Virginia, and lived there until I came to Goucher College. And while at Goucher, I met my future husband. We were married in 1948, and I have lived in Baltimore, Mount Washington, ever since. I was raised in Charleston, West Virginia. I came to Baltimore to go to Goucher College, and I met my future husband there. We were married in 1948, and I moved to Baltimore. We lived in Mount Washington, which is a suburb near Pimlico Racetrack. At least that's the way we always identify where we are. It's very different today than it was when we were first married. Mount Washington is an old community that was originally more or less a summer resort for people who lived in Baltimore City. The train ran out to Mount Washington so that the men, the fathers, husbands, could commute on the weekends while the family stayed in in Baltimore, downtown. The houses, many of the houses are very, very old and very, very large to accommodate large families, or maybe they were boarding houses. The streetcar ran on Cross Country Boulevard. I could ride the streetcar from Goucher out to Mount Washington and back. I was married before I finished college, but I did finish at Goucher. The neighborhood was more or less diverse. There were probably no African American families, but many Jewish families, not completely Jewish, but probably about 60% Jewish at the time. Mount Washington has maintained its beauty and its popularity. Today, it's much more diverse than it was when I first came here. Many families houses have several generations. The parents get older and the children get married and live in the houses. There are very few houses there, very few vacant lots over the years since I've been here. Most of them have had houses built on them. My house is one of the youngest, and it's about 45 years old. As I said, it's a very beautiful neighborhood, an old neighborhood, and a very established neighborhood. The school has always had a good reputation, the Mount Washington School, and now they have a middle school. I have 3 children. They all went to the Mount Washington School and got what we considered good educations. I like the neighborhood so much that after my husband died, I didn't want to leave the neighborhood, so I bought a smaller house a block away from our family home. When I moved to Mount Washington in 1948, it was a big difference from where I had grown up in Charleston, West Virginia. Baltimore was a big city, probably about 10 times the size of the city where I grew up. And it took me a while to get used to the change in the size of the city. In Mount Washington, the streetcar ran right through the neighborhood, basically on Ken Oak and Cross Country Boulevard. You could take the streetcar and go all the way downtown. Actually, I think you could go all the way to the harbor or the other end of the city. Mount Washington was an old community that originally had been a summer resort for people who lived downtown in Baltimore. The train ran from downtown out to Mount Washington, and people could commute. The men would stay in town during the week and come out on the weekends. There are a lot of very large houses which would accommodate a family with a lot of children, or they could have been boarding houses. Anyway, the people in Mount Washington were very friendly, some more so than others. And as I said, there was some mixing between Jewish people and non-Jewish people. There was some anti-Semitism. We had a neighbor who was not Jewish, and while she was, you might say she was anti-Semitic based on some of her things that she did to us, on the other hand, she taught at the Beis Yaakov school. We always thought that was something of an enigma. Mount Washington is very different today than what it was 70 years ago. Very diverse. We have on our block some African American people, some Asian people, some Latinos, and not too many of the people who were there when I first came. I probably am one of the oldest people in the neighborhood. I'm friendly with everyone. I have a dog. The dog is a great way to make friends, and I tell my friends who are lonely, get a dog. Since the pandemic, it's become even friendlier. I think people are so happy to be outside, to be able to talk to somebody, which helps with the isolation of being quarantined for so long. I myself have found some new friends, some young people that I find it's fun to spend a little time with, maybe just taking a walk or stopping on the sidewalk and chatting with them for a while. And the new people who have moved in and recently seem to fit well into the neighborhood. They're welcomed. I have not noticed any anti-Semitism or any prejudice among the new people or from the people who've lived there for a while towards the new people. If they have feelings, they haven't expressed it to me.